Testing. First of all, I want to say good evening to each and every one of you tonight. And I want to thank Jim for having me tonight to share my story. My name is Essie Horne, and I'm a twin. And twin is one of two children or a small born animal at the same birth. I have a twin brother, and he was born May 13th, and I was born May 14th. He was born at 11:59, and I was born at 12:06. So we both had our own birthdays, which was unique. And he used to tease me that he was older than me. So when his birthday came, he'd say, I'm older than you, I'm older than you. We had our own language growing up, our own song, our own dance. My mom didn't know she was having twins. So I kicked my twin out. So I came out feet first. So this evening, I'm going to share my new abnormal life journey with you guys. No matter how you feel, get up, dress up, show up, and never give up. August 19, 2006, I took a coworker out for a surprise birthday party. And me and my cousins came home with my husband at 2-something in the morning. And one of my cousins left and went home, and another one got the car keys and went home. Went in the house to use the restroom. So my husband helped me out the front seat, and we were walking over to the apartment, laughing and, having a good time, talking. And so as we got to the apartment, the wooden door was open and the screen door was closed, of course, because my cousin had to use the bathroom. So we walked in together, walked over to the radio because he loved music. And I gave him a kiss and told him I loved him. So I rushed over into the bedroom while my cousin was in the bathroom and just took off what I had on and put on a little nightie. So I stepped back out to ask my husband did he like what I had on. And as I stepped out, he was walking towards the kitchen, and he smiled and said yes. So I stepped right back into the room to pick up the clothes I just took off, and I heard a loud bang. It sounded like a car was backfiring. So I stepped back out to where I just came from to ask my husband, did he hear that noise? And when I stepped out, there was a young male standing in my doorway, staring at me like this. So I'm facing this way, he's here. And he's staring at me, and I'm staring at him like you guys and ladies are staring at me now. And he fired. That's when I realized the second shot was a gunshot, not the first one. And I jumped. And when I jumped back to where I just came from and dove on the bed on my back. So I'm praying to God that he doesn't come in there and finish me off. At this point, I get back up because my mind is in a dream zone. I'm like, this is not happening to me. My cousin is still in the bathroom, mind you. So I get back up and I say I'm stupid when I share my story because in the movies you're like, go out the window, go out the back door, but your mind doesn't think like that. So I get back up and go back where I was standing to see where my husband was. The screen door is open at this time and a wooden door, so in my mind, I'm thinking my husband is outside. So I go outside in front of the door to see if he's out on the patio. And he's not there. So I come back in, and as I come back in, I'm facing this way, and the kitchen is on this side of me. And as I look down, I see my husband laying on the ground with blood coming out of his mouth and nose. At this point, I run and grab the phone, and I go back to where my husband is, and I drop to my knees, and I say, baby, just please hold on. Just please hold on. Everything is moving so slow and so fast. At this point, my cousin is coming out slowly. It's like a dream zone. This is not happening to me, but it's happening to me. And I flipped. And I started screaming. At that point, all I can remember is hearing someone behind me saying, we need to get her off of him so we can sedate him. So I was straddled to the floor, and I can't remember who was putting sweats or something on me, but all I can remember at that moment, I was put outside. Mind you, it was 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning at this time. Me and my husband met in TJ. I was 18 going on 19. He was in the military. He was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. He decided once he got out the military to come to San Diego. At that time, I was working at NASCO as a welder in training. We were together 11 years and married for 3 at the time. We had a 7.5-year-old daughter and a 1.5-year-old son at the time of his death. My twin stepped up and helped me with that. He was my voice to the media. He was my voice of rationing to move out of my apartment because I didn't want to leave. So I was displaced at that point in my life. So I became a widow at 29 with 2 kids. At that time, I was working for the city of San Diego Water Department in construction. So my whole world just paused and stopped. 10 years later, March 9, 2016, my twin was murdered through a drive-by. 2 young girls, 2 young black girls, 2 young black males. Who's going to advocate for him? So I had to step up. I was coming home from a class, and I got a call saying my twin possibly had got shot in the head. I was born and raised in Southeast. My grandfather and my grandmother lived next door to each other off of 47th and Ocean View and T. And he owned apartments from 47th to Market. So that's where our roots are. I was told that I needed to leave because I have a young black male and a daughter in our community. Where do you go? You run and hide and let somebody take over because they felt entitled to do what they did. So I had a lot of soul searching and challenges and choices to make in a split second. The reality is hurt people. But I'm here today to say hurt people, heal people. The night I found out my twin was murdered dead, I came up with an acronym. We spelled twin T-W-E-E-N instead of T-W-I-N. He would text me T-W-E-E-N all the time. He'd tell me, keep your head up, don't let them see you sweat. You know, he would come out and advocate with me in the community, with the marches, with Tawu and with all the community activists in Southeast. You know, 13 years ago, we didn't have a lot of, or no organizations out there, you know, advocating for our kids or advocating for mental health, advocating for anything for black and brown in our community. I made a decision to go see a psychiatrist. And I didn't know what PTSD was when I was diagnosed. I just recently, a couple years ago, found out what it was and what I was going through. So the night my twin passed, I came up with an acronym for twin. And it stands for Together We Elevate Each Other in Our Neighborhood. 2 weeks ago, I went and got the name solidified and a business tax ID. And eventually I'll be turning it into a nonprofit. Tonight I have bracelets in honor of my husband and my twin that are $2 donation. All the proceeds go towards the organization. So what I do is I go out and mentor the youth. I go out to prisons and share my story and share about choices, making the right decisions through a tragedy or through emotions, because I could have easily went left. But I had a strong village, thank the Lord. I wanted to go do drugs. I didn't want to feel anymore. So I explain that in my testimony and when I go out and speak to the youth in the high schools and juvenile hall about the feelings and emotions, because we don't talk about that in our community. You know, we say, oh, through time you'll get over it. But we have triggers, you know, and balloon pop, that's one of my triggers, you know. And so you don't know what our kids are going through, and they still have to go through day-to-day life, dealing with life. And so through the grace of God, I want to read a poem that I wrote in my twins' 8-week murder trial. So for the first case, for me and my husband, it's still a homicide, it's still an open case or a cold case. But I'm still pushing for some answers with that. For my twin, we found out who the kids were, and we're still going through the driver, which is a female, she was 17 at the time. Excuse me. We're still going through court with her, but the two males that were the shooters, because they came into the community and shot up Ocean View and shot up in the area, just because they were on different sides, different colors of the neighborhood. And one of the gentlemen that was shooting, he wasn't the one that shot my twin, but he actually was a cousin. So we are related in so many ways. He didn't know that until I spoke at the victim statement court, you know. And so with that being said, you know, we have choices. And I had to forgive in order to move forward. I had to show my kids that there are better ways to deal with trauma and deal with things that people feel entitled to take away from us. I was so terrified to raise a young black male in my community, in our community, but I couldn't run away because he needed to know who he was and who he is. It takes a village. Tonight I'm so grateful to be able to stand here and share my story and my testimony and be able to go out and do the things that I do. For my 9 to 5, I'm a woman in construction, so I jackhammer. I drive 5-yard trucks. I worked for the city of San Diego, it'll be 15 years, but I wasn't going back when my husband got murdered and I got shot at. But God is good, you know. With my twin, my mom told me I had to handle it. He took his last breath at 8:08 that night, March 9, 2016. Now my kids are old enough to see what death is and what somebody can come and do and take away. So I had to react fast and show them the right way, how to react, and put them emotions into something powerful and a purpose. So with that, I have to show them my example. So with you was expressing about being a mom in this day and age, you know, and the things that you're scared about, the young lady in the back, you know, with your daughter turning 21. My daughter will be 21 January 8th of this year coming up. And I had to check myself because I had to learn how to relate to my daughter. You know, I'm old school. I was raised by my grandma and my mom. You know, it's their way or no way, you know. Yeah. So I had to back myself up and figure out how I can relate with my daughter because she was going through pain and she knew her dad. She was a daddy's girl, you know. And then my son growing up not knowing his father. I had to get strong black males in our community to mentor him and take him and show him how to be a man. Because as a mom, I only could show him so much. I got him a life coach. I have myself a life coach, you know, and we talk on a daily, weekly, you know, text, Facebook, and just encourage, and it takes a village, you know, and network. Pillars of the community with Khaled Alexander, you know, they brought me into ROS, Reclaiming Our Story. So I'm in the process of reclaiming my story, taking it back, being a survivor and not a victim of my circumstances. Like I said, I go into juvenile hall, and I also go into the prisons and talk to the guys in the maximum yards to see where their mind was at certain ages and where they're at today, so they can see the survivor. They might not be able to see their victim or survivor of the family, because traditionally you don't. Once you go to court and that person is sentenced or whatever the case may be, it's a gray area, it's a done deal. But I'm here to speak for the voiceless. So you're gonna see me, hear me, and you can ask questions. And I told them, you left one standing, and that's me. So they live through me, and anyone that went through a tragedy lives through me if they're not able to express how they're feeling or what they went through, or even how to relate what they've been going through. So I have a poem that I wrote. It's called My Right Eye Cries. So sitting in court, the only eye that would cry was my right eye. My right eye cries, while my left eye stays dry. My mind is overwhelmed, but my heart is still pounding. My breaths are heavy when the air seems thin, but yet and still, wind, W-I-N-D. As I see with my ears and hear with my eyes, I know God has an unbelievable prize. My right eye cries. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my testimony and my story. And you guys have a great night.